Hello, everyone. It's Brian Underwood. I have a couple talking points today that we'll kind of go through. First one is mindset. One of my mentors told me a long time ago the waves of building a business, right? Meaning there's an up, there's a down, and you just got to learn to ride those waves. But mindset has so many different layers, right? I know that just coming up through athletics, 99% is mindset. Like it starts with mindset. And I think some people, they start giving meaning to what's happening, or and then they start um, self sabotaging based on the meaning that they're giving it. There's a book, a mentor of mine gave it to me a long time ago. It's something that Tony Robbins actually, a lot of content in his UPW comes from the book called Mastery. I think it's a George Leonard. It's Leonard.
Yes.
I think that's his first name. But he just talks about how business and life and growth is constant and never ending, right? So like the karate master, he never arrives. Like there's always another level, and your business is just a vessel, right? So the way that I look at it is that if you're not ready to carry the weight of success, or you're not ready to be a steward of the success that you're having, your business will autocorrect itself. Me personally, I think life is about understanding the plateau. What is a plateau? Well, plateau is where you live before you go to the next level, because that's where all of your growth is coming from, your understanding or your repetition, right? If it takes repetition to build skill, like there's going to be a point of time where you put hours and hours and hours in. When you're a novice, it takes less time to get to the next level. When you become a pro or an expert, it's going to take more time in the plateau to get to the next level, because and you might only the next level might only be like a millimeter difference, right? But it takes so much work. But that little millimeter, that little inch, look at it as like Phelps, in swimming. Like they're a fraction of a second difference between gold medal and silver medal. But like the amount of time that they spend in the water to get that extra tenth of a second is freaking crazy. And so I think life is about living on the plateau, and the plateau is the edge of the next level. So if you're not in a plateau, push yourself until you get there, until you're getting some resistance or some pushback. But mindset is not something, it's everything. Leadership has to have the right mindset, which takes AQ, which is adaptability quotient, EQ, which is emotional intelligence, and then I really do think IQ. But I think the first stage of mindset is this, and correct me if I'm wrong, and I think so many people, this is at the most basic level, and it's something we have to ask ourselves, I think, at every level that we're going through, or every phase or every season. But the very first, I think, distinction that someone should have when they're starting a business, what is your outcome? Like that is your mindset, right? Like my point being is that I think one of the great tool for someone, even coaching yourself, is always measure your outcome. And then based on your outcome, are your actions congruent to the outcome of what you want? Everybody wants it, but when you're starving, you're going to do anything that it takes. You're going to move with inspired action to make it happen. Everybody wants to make $1 million. I'm using a million as a loose term, but just so many people don't understand what it takes. They don't understand that it is, and it's not just about the million. It's what the million gives us. The majority of the people that can keep it and build something long term, there's a lot more investment that has to take place, right? And I always talk about building a legacy business, meaning does your business have a long tail for the investment that you put into it today? And in today's world, it can be very people can get very disillusioned very quickly, because you can make a lot of money through transactions. But just because you make a lot of money with transactions, there's a difference in making a lot of money and building a long term business. And especially with the internet today, you can create a footprint to make a lot of transactions, but it doesn't mean you have a legacy built business. There's a big differentiator in those two. To build a long term business, the most important commodity is time, meaning you have to put time into your business. So I think that I look at it as different levels. If someone wants to build $1 million legacy business, they have to understand it's going to take pillars of relationships to do that. If someone wants to make a good part-time income, what is the expectation for them? Well, for me, I think someone making a good part-time income consistently, right? That's the key word that they can count on. It's a part-time income but their effort would have to be full-time focus. Like it takes a full-time focus to make a consistent part-time income. Because in today's world, standards are skewed. There's a movie called Secretary. It's one of my favorite movies in the world. But one of the things that's amazing in the movie Secretary, it's the greatest horse that ever lived, that ever ran, from here in Kentucky. And if you kind of know the story of Secretariat, there was a coin toss, and Peggy, who's the owner of Secretariat, lost the coin toss, but she got Secretariat. And both of their backs were against the wall. Secretariat was the underdog. And her father was big in the horse business and horse racing, and he was getting ready to lose their farm, their legacy. He had Alzheimer's, and shortly after Secretariat was born, died. And Peggy kept moving forward, and people said, you wanted to move forward to protect your dad's legacy, which in the movie they always thought that the legacy was about the wealth that he created. And she goes, my dad's legacy had nothing to do with money. His legacy was the will to win. And that's what Secretariat was about. So a lot of you might have seen that horse race where Secretariat wins the Triple Crown. There's so many different analogies. One of the things that she said to Secretariat before that race was she ran her race. Like she proved all the critics wrong, and she looks over to Secretariat and she goes, now you run your race. And so for a lot of us, you have to ask yourself from a mindset perspective and a legacy perspective. Don't just look at like how you can make ends meet this week. Move with inspired action. Like go run your race, and what is the legacy that you're going to leave behind by running your race. It's not about what you accomplish, it's about who you become along the way is what creates your legacy.